Hello Daily Drafters and welcome to the Secrets of Strixhaven pre-release guide here on the channel designed to get you ready for your pre-release events this weekend. This video will be full of useful information for beginners to seasoned veterans, whether this will be your first ever pre-release or if you're looking for Strixhaven specific information such as a rundown on new and returning mechanics, limited archetypes, and more to make sure that you're on top of your game at your LGS. So whether you're new here or you've been here a while, stay tuned for the ultimate guide in helping you crush your Secrets of Strixhaven pre-release. Now, some of you might be asking yourself, what exactly is a pre-release? Well, each year there are roughly 6 main set releases of Magic the Gathering products, and most local game stores run what's called a pre-release for each of these main set releases. Essentially, you battle it out against your friends and strangers using several booster packs of brand new cards for the upcoming set that has yet to be released, hence the name pre-release. If this sounds interesting to you, let's take a step-by-step look at exactly how these events are run. Step 1. Locate your local game store. In order to participate in a pre-release event, you'll need to locate one. If you do not already have a local game store that you frequent, I've included a link in the description to a website that will help you find a game store running an event near you. Now that you've found where you'll be participating, it's time to get registered. Usually stores will run events all weekend, maybe one on Friday, 2 on Saturday, and 1 on Sunday. So check with your LGS to see when the events are happening and which ones you would like to attend. Now be sure to note that sometimes these events do fill up fast, so you may need to pre-register to ensure that you have a spot. It really just depends on your store. Other times you can just walk in and register on the spot, so be sure to find out what's best for your situation. Now that you're registered, it's time for the fun part. When it's time to start the event, you will get handed a pre-release kit, like the one on your screen now. You'll notice that there are actually 5 available kits this time around, and that's because Strixhaven features the 5 colleges of Lorehold, Quandrix, Prismari, Witherbloom, and Silverquill, and this event will feature a kit representing each college. You may get to choose your kit, you might have it randomly assigned to you, and you might be able to trade your kits before the event. It's really all up to your local store, so make sure that you know what's happening around you and get in on registering early if you'd like a specific kit. Now that you've got your kit, when the event begins, you will be instructed to open your kit and begin your deck build. It varies from store to store, but usually you will have about 50 minutes or so to build your deck and get ready for your matches. Let's take a look at what you'll find when you open your kit. Inside you will find 1 traditional foil rare or mythic rare from Secrets of Strixhaven, and continuing the recent trend, these promos will no longer have a year stamp as they have in the past. They will simply be an additional individually wrapped foil rare or mythic. You will also get 5 Secrets of Strixhaven play boosters. You will get 1 seeded college-themed booster that contains only cards from the kit's college's 2 colors, and you will get 1 20-sided spin-down die that matches the kit's college. When it comes to the contents of your booster packs, each Secrets of Strixhaven play booster will contain a variation on the following: 7 commons, and 2% of the time one of these 7 commons will be replaced by a mythic rare special guest card, of which there are 10 for this set, all of which you can see on your screen now. You'll get 3 uncommons, 1 mystical archive card, which has the ability to occupy any of the remaining slots in the pack except the land slot, and that has an 88% chance to be an uncommon and a 12% chance to be a rare or mythic. You'll get 1 rare or mythic rare with varying art treatments at increasingly lower hit rates, and examples of those are on your screen now. You'll also get 1 non-foil wild card of any rarity, which has a 39% chance to be a common, a 39% chance to be an uncommon, and a 22% chance to be a rare or mythic. And you can also find varying art treatments of cards in this slot as well, all at a less than 1% chance. You'll get a foil card of any rarity, which has a 54% chance to be a common, a 34% chance to be an uncommon, and an 8% chance to be a rare or mythic, and once again you can find varying art treatments of cards, all at less than a 1% chance. And the final slot will be a land card that has a 50% chance to be a basic land of varying art treatments, and a 50% chance to be a common dual land. Alright, we now have everything we need to begin our deck build. If you'd like to see an example of a Secrets of Strixhaven sealed deck build, stick around until the final segment of this video, which is time-stamped below, where I will build an entire sealed deck on screen for you to follow along with. After you've built your deck, you will then be assigned an opponent by the event coordinator, and you will play out your first match. Different stores will give you different amounts of matches for the event, but usually it's a minimum of 3. Sometimes you might get lucky and be able to play 4 or more, it just depends. After you've finished your matches, you may qualify for some prizes, so be sure to check with the event coordinator to cash in on your winnings. So what I'm going to do now is go over some of the notable mechanics for the set, go over the themes associated with the draftable archetypes, and just give you a general rundown of what's going on in Strixhaven before I do my deck build, so we both have a better idea of what to look out for. The first new mechanic we have in this set is Prepare. Preparation cards offer access to an extensive repertoire of famous spells from the past and present. Each preparation card has a 2-part frame. You may have seen cards like this with either Omen or Adventure cards, but this time the creature's characteristics are here on the left and not the right. The inset portion here in the lower right is the Prepare spell. It has its own characteristics associated with it. Most cards with this keyword enter prepared, and when a permanent is on the battlefield and is prepared, you have access to cast the spell in the lower right of the card, following all of its costs and timing restrictions. If the creature were to leave the battlefield before you cast its Prepare spell, you then lose access to it. And if that creature were to somehow become unprepared, you also lose access to that spell. Creatures that are already prepared cannot become prepared again, meaning that you can only ever have access to its spell one time unless you somehow re-prepare it, which there are ways to do in the set. The next set of new mechanics we have present here on Strixhaven is one for each of the 5 colleges, with 4 of these mechanics being new. So let's start with Silverquill's new mechanic, which is Repartee. The ability word Repartee highlights triggered abilities that trigger whenever you target a creature with an instant or sorcery spell. It's similar to previous mechanics like Heroic and such, but the difference here is that the permanent with Repartee will be able to see that you target something else and still be able to trigger. It doesn't have to target the creature with Repartee, or even more critically, your own creature. You can target your opponent's creatures to trigger this. In the case of Graduation Day here, this is simply a 1-mana enchantment that will trigger whenever you target any creature on the battlefield, even your opponent's, with an instant or sorcery spell, and then allows you to put a counter on a creature you control. The new mechanic that the Prismari get here this time around is Opus. Opus highlights triggered abilities that will trigger whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, but also offers additional or alternative effects if you spend 5 or more mana to cast that spell that caused the Opus ability to trigger. In the case of Deluge Virtuoso, it will get a +1/+1 stats boost each time you cast an instant or sorcery spell, but if 5 or more mana was spent to cast that spell, it will get +2/+2 instead. Our next new mechanic belongs to the Witherbloom College, and that is Infusion. Infusion abilities care in some way if you've gained life this turn. Infusion is used in a variety of ways: to give a spell an additional or alternative effect, to determine whether a bonus applies, or to see if a triggered ability will have an effect, like on Old Growth Educator, which would enter with 2 additional counters if you gained any amount of life this turn. The Quandrix College gets a new keyword called Increment. Increment is a triggered ability found on creatures. Whenever you cast a spell, if the amount of mana spent to cast that spell is greater than the power or toughness of the creature with Increment, you get to put a +1/+1 counter on that creature. You will compare the amount of mana spent on the creature's stats 2 times. First, you'll have to check after you cast the spell to see if Increment should trigger at all, and if it does trigger, it will also check upon the resolution of the spell to see if, for example, the creature's power or toughness got too big before its resolution. If that is the case, the creature won't receive the counter. And the last college we have is Lorehold, and Lorehold also gets a mechanic, but it's not new. In our return to Strixhaven, Lorehold gets Flashback. Now, this mechanic is basically evergreen at this point, so as long as you've played with basically any other set in the last year or 2, you should have a pretty good idea of what Flashback does, so I won't go into detail about it here except for the fact that it's just a way to cast spells from your graveyard for an additional cost. Now, believe it or not, we still have 2 more mechanics to talk about, and one of them is also a new mechanic. The new mechanic left for us here is Paradigm. This only appears on a cycle of mythic rare sorceries, so it's not a huge deal for us limited players, but basically, the first time a particular spell with Paradigm resolves for you, you get to exile it, and from that point forward, at the beginning of each of your first main phases for the rest of the game, you may cast a copy of that spell without paying its mana cost. It seems absolutely insane if you ask me, but I suppose we'll wait to see how they play out in Limited. We also do have the return of Converge in this set. Now Converge highlights spells that count the number of colors of mana used to cast those spells, or for permanents, the number of colors of mana used to cast the spells that became those permanents. In the case of Rancorous Archaic, it will simply enter with a number of counters on it for each color of mana spent to cast it. One last thing about mechanics, if you played Strixhaven the first time around, you might remember a mechanic called Learn. Learning and lessons were a huge part of the original Strixhaven format, but Learn will not be returning here in Secrets of Strixhaven. The 5 Mythic Rare Paradigm cards will have the lesson subtype, but there are no other lessons, and Learn is not a mechanic in the set. So you don't have to worry about Standard being broken because of all of the Avatar lesson cards. So that does it for the new and returning mechanics, so let's check out the draftable archetypes that Strixhaven will feature, each of which are visible on your screen now. Now because of the 5 college nature of the plane, Secrets of Strixhaven will make it 4 out of the last 5 sets that feature only 5 draftable archetypes. Now I could soapbox on this for hours, but essentially due to the stretching of resources at Wizards of the Coast and their self-imposed need to force-feed us 7 standard legal sets this year, their focus on each individual set has suffered so much as to make what seems like a continuing trend to only support half of the color pairs. You don't like small sets? Well, too bad. You don't like sets that don't let you draft 10 decks? Also, too bad. They're both not only here to stay, but look to be the new norm for us neglected limited players going forward. But I digress. So let's start with Silverquill, the white-black color pair, which is billed as Repartee Aggro. Each format needs an aggro deck, and here at Strixhaven, I'm actually thrilled that it's not the red-white deck. Instead, black-white looks to put on the pressure in this set through the use of its new Repartee mechanic. This archetype is sure to reward you for casting targeted spells at both your own creatures and your opponent's creatures while you press the attack. The Prismari College represents the blue-red color pair here at Strixhaven, and they are all about casting instants and sorceries, and in this case, capitalizing on big spells by way of the new Opus mechanic. Be sure to load up your deck with a critical mass of spells, and don't forget to be picky about the payoffs you choose to include, as there will surely be some highly coveted options floating around. The black-green color pair is represented by the Witherbloom College, and this time around they're focused on life gain. Look to include many different ways to gain life, including by producing pest tokens, a Witherbloom favorite, to buff your life total and trigger your other cards that care about the life you've gained. You can also maximize the new Infuse keyword here in this college as well. I love it when the red-white deck doesn't get the aggro theme. It's just way too common and honestly pretty boring at this point. In our first trip to Strixhaven, the Lorehold College got to play with spirit tokens and cared about cards leaving the graveyard. And this time, it looks to be doing similar things. They are archaeologists, after all. Find ways to fill your graveyard and get extra value from your flashback cards that you can get a second bite at the apple with. Anyone like math? The Quandrix College may just be for you, as you are looking to gain incremental value through growing your creatures as you cast bigger and bigger spells. Your increment creatures will only get larger as the game progresses, and your threats will hopefully be able to scale with the length of the game. Try to find ways to accelerate your mana, draw cards, and attack with huge creatures because, hey, math isn't just for blockers here. Now, the hardest part about the whole event is building your deck, but good news, I will now go through an entire Secrets of Strixhaven sealed deck build to give you an idea of what you might want to be looking out for in your pool of cards and how to maximize your chance of having a competitive deck for the event. You can also catch a video or two here that will be posted to the channel later this week, showing a couple of sealed runs of the Strixhaven set when I participate in the streamer event this upcoming Wednesday. So if you're into some early access content, Daily Draft is the place to find it. Okay, welcome to the deck building portion of the video here, and what I usually do is explain how I'm able to access this sort of stuff, and What I normally do is I go to a site called draftsim.com, which you can see right here, right now. You can generate practice sealed pools from draftsim.com. You can also build through their interface. But what I like to do is export the draftsim sealed deck generation into what you see here, which is the sealeddeck.tech interface. Now, I did something a little bit different this time around because these pre-release kits are customized kind of based off these college boosters that we talked about. So what I actually did is I headed to draftmancer.com. Now, this is a site where you can actually do all kinds of drafts with other people and stuff. You can do all kinds of game modes too. So what I've actually done here for this one is I created a sealed pool with one booster in it, which generates a singular booster. I did that 5 times and exported each of them. And then that's how you can see the 5 regular boosters that I generated here. So I did that through Draftmancer. Now this last booster, I basically created one of the custom college packs as if I chose Silver Quill here. We did get word that there are 9 commons, 3 uncommons, and 1 foil rare or mythic that is included within this, and it says they're all going to be college themed. Now I can assume that's going to guarantee it's only either black or white in this case, but also might be things like featuring the repartee mechanic for Silver Quill, or featuring Infusion for Witherbloom, or something like that. They probably have their own little way of building these individual packs. They only come in pre-release kits, so I did my best to generate this, and I also gave myself a randomly generated rare or mythic to go with this. So this is the pool I've got to build from, and the first thing you're going to want to do is going to sort by rarity. Now, something interesting about this process is that we do get this 1 seeded booster, and I do think it's going to be really hard to not build whatever college you actually open your kit to be. In this case, Silver Quill. It's going to be very difficult to do that. I mean, if we look at our rares and mythics here, we've got 2 mythics, one from our seeded college booster. These paradigm cards are really good. Pox Plague being effectively uncastable and limited, unfortunately, as it is 5 black mana. There is a joined researchers. And then we've got one of the Silver Quill lands as well, with a couple other rares here too. Now, if you look in the multicolor aspect of things, this pool ended up with 5 uncommon Silver Quill cards and 1 common Silver Quill card. But also I noticed that there's actually 3 common Quandrix and 3 uncommon Quandrix, or common and uncommon, whichever way you look at it here, which could be interesting to go with the fact that we have 2 rare Quandrix cards, but we'll see as we kind of go from there. After you decide on which rares and mythics you think are going to be best for kind of whatever deck you want to build here, you want to take a look at some of the important uncommons. We've got things like Feed the Swarm from the Mystical Archive here. We've got all of these uncommons. I mean, they're probably all good enough to put in. Maybe not 2 Killian's Confidence, but who knows? There's a lot of white cards here as well. I mean, look at all the white, not a ton of black. And then if you sort by color, you see how much white and black I still have left compared to literally 5 green cards. I think that seeded college booster is going to go a long way in kind of pushing you down a direction here. This is going to be, I think, one of the easier deck builds that we've had in the past couple of years. I would venture to guess that less than 5% of kits should build a deck that is not from their seeded college, but it could happen. I just don't think this pool is going to be one of those examples, except from all this Quandrix stuff right here. That's the only thing giving me pause. So the first thing I did is I tested out that Quandrix theory, and I built a deck based off of most of the blue and green that I could. And in doing that, I was able to get to like 16 pretty decent cards, but like I've only got 6 blue and green cards left at all, including some colorless converge cards. I do have ways to splash black with this if I really wanted to splash something like Feed the Swarm or something, but you see, as much as it looks like I have, which I do have, what is this, 8 Quandrix gold cards, I just can't make a deck out of it. So I had to go back to Silver Quill, and that's pretty much where I landed with this seeded pack. So let's check out the deck that I ended up landing on. So here's the final Silver Quill deck that we've got. Got a little, or a little lucky here with Silver Quill himself, but also double Abigail at the uncommon spot, Adventurous Eaters. I think these prepared cards are going to be really, really good in Silver Quill because you can get a creature, but also, and not at the expense of putting a creature in your deck, you can put these, have a bite in this case, or there's at least one more that I have. Yeah, Forum's Favor as the prepared spell version. We've got, 16 creatures, 8 others. A lot of these target creatures as well. Feed the Swarm can target their creature, still trigger repartee and all kinds of stuff like that. Silver Quill was my favorite archetype back in original Strixhaven. It was one of the archetypes that actually got me to Mythic in Limited for the first time ever. I forced it all the way to number 54 rank Mythic, which is to this day still the highest I've been. And if I have time to go to pre-release this weekend on my own, I'm probably going to choose Silver Quill on my own, just for the memories. But this is the sideboard that's left after building Silver Quill here. Decent amount of sideboard stuff still here, Requisition Raid and more. But that Quandrix kind of sits on the side. And I'm hoping that your deck build this weekend is going to be as simple as this. Choosing a college that you choose, whatever kit you get, it will likely push you in that direction. So we've got a bit of an easy one this time around. I'm excited. I hope you guys are too. Thanks for sticking around for the deck build. I hope this video was helpful to you and helps you build up the courage needed to go to participate in your pre-release event at your LGS this weekend. If you've never been to one, I highly recommend it. It's one of the most absolute fun ways to play Magic, and you'll meet tons of different players there. If you do end up going, return back to this video, leave a comment, and let me know how it went for you. I'd love to hear feedback from everyone about how your event went. Now, thanks so much for sticking around to the end of this video, and I will see you here soon at Daily Draft.